Hi everybody, welcome back. This is going to be our week 4 lesson. We're going to move forward to section 8.4. We're still multiplying polynomials, and in this particular section, we're multiplying what we refer to as special cases. So there's going to be two special cases that we're going to cover in this section. One special case is something referred to as the square of a binomial. Binomial meaning we have two terms and we are squaring the entire thing. So you could have a square of a binomial where you're adding the two terms inside, and the square of a binomial where you're subtracting the two terms. So basically what this means is that you're taking this binomial and you're multiplying it against itself. So in the previous section, we learned how to do a product like this either using FOIL, first, outer, inner, and last, or by multiplying using a table. You could use either of those methods here, or you could also use this kind of formula, if you will, to get your product, because it'll work out this way when you have the square of a binomial. It'll work out this way every single time. So to get your answer very quickly, you just take the first term, the first one, square it. That's going to be the first term in your product. You're going to take the product of the first and the last and double it, so 2 times the product of the first and the last, and then the last term is the last term in the binomial squared. The only difference between this rule / formula, whatever you want to call it, and this one is that the middle term is going to have a minus sign if your starting binomial has a minus sign. So here's a quick example. So I've got x plus 4, and it's the entire binomial squared. So to get my product without having to use FOIL or a table, I could just memorize this rule right here and say that my first term is going to be this first term squared. The second term is going to be x times 4 times 2. So x times 4 is 4x times 2 is 8x. And then the last term, I just take this last term here and I square it. 4 times 4 is 16. So here's my final answer. If you forget this rule, you don't have to use this. You can just expand it like this and then use FOIL if you're more comfortable using that method. Or you could insert a table and use the table method that we learned last time. You don't have to memorize this rule if you don't want to. There's other ways to get the same answer. But it does make doing the problem a lot quicker if you can rely on this. Okay, here's another example. X minus 3 and the entire thing is being squared. To get my product, I do x times x. That's going to give me the first term. And then x times 3 is 3x times 2 is 6. You just have to remember that this right here is going to impact the sign of your middle term. It's going to be a negative instead of a positive. And then the last term, I take 3 times 3 and I get 9. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for the first couple of examples. I'm going to walk you through one here. Okay, so x plus 8, the entire thing being squared. Well, first term I get by squaring the first term. X times x is x squared. And again, to insert my exponent, I'm going to go to Format, Text, Superscript, Square, Format, Text, Superscript to turn it off. This has a plus sign, so my middle term, is going to have, didn't mean to do that, didn't mean to zoom into my screen here. My middle term is going to have a plus sign, and then the middle term I get by doing x times 8, which is 8x, times 2, which is 16x. And then the last term I get by squaring the last term. So 8 times 8, 64. Done. That's my answer. Let's do another one. My first term comes from squaring this first term. 2m times 2m is going to give me 4m squared. And I turn the exponent off once I have it. I keep doing that. I keep maximizing my screen. I don't mean to press that. I keep wanting to hit shift. All right. And then the second term, it's going to be a minus sign because this binomial has a minus sign in it. And I get the second term by doing 2m times 3 times 2. So 2m times 3 is 6m, times 2 is 12m. And then the last term I get by squaring this term, which is 9. And it's going to be a plus 9. The last term is always going to have a plus sign no matter what. Okay, it's only the middle sign that gets affected. All right, so that was special case number 1. Here's special case number 2. We call it the product of a sum and difference. Sum means addition, difference means subtraction, and basically it's going to look something like this. You're going to have the first and the last terms are going to match. The only thing that's going to be different is that one is going to be a sum of those two terms, and the other is going to be a difference. Again, this just means that you're multiplying these two binomials together, and you can do so by using the FOIL method or using a table method. And what you're going to get as a final answer is essentially something that follows this rule, where you're going to have the first term as the product of the first two, the last term as the product of the last two. In other words, you're just squaring it, and then you're going to have a minus sign in between. Okay, every single time you'll have a minus sign in between. So here's an example. X plus 2 times the binomial x minus 2. First term, when I square it, gives me x squared. Last term, when I square it, gives me 4, and I stick a minus sign in between, okay? And again, you can use FOIL or a table, but if you can remember that rule, it makes doing the work a lot quicker. Okay, so here is the product of a sum and a difference, and I know it's a sum/difference product because the two terms are the same, 2p3, 2p3. The only thing that's different is that one is a sum, right here, and the other is a difference. So I can use that rule where I get the first term by squaring the first term. 2p times 2p gives me 4p squared. I have to put a minus sign because a product of a sum or difference always has a minus sign in between. And then the last term I get by squaring the last term. 3 times 3 gives me 9. Done. That's my final answer. Okay, next one. I know it's a product of a sum and difference because the terms match, 8 and 8, 6x and 6x. The only difference is that one is a sum and one is a difference. So to get my answer, I'm just going to square the first term. I get 64. I'm going to square the last term and get 36x squared. And I put a minus sign in between the two. And there's my final answer. And that is our lesson for this week. It is a very short and hopefully easy lesson. So our homework for this week, you're going to do your online learning slides. There's also a worksheet that goes along with it. I want you to do both of these by Wednesday. And then on Friday, we're going to start reviewing for a quiz. So we'll review Friday, May 1st. I'll give you guys another review on Monday, May 4th. And then that one will be due that Wednesday, but I'll upload it the Monday of the week. But it'll be due May the 6th. And then on Friday, May 8th, we'll have a quiz which covers the first 4 sections of Chapter 8. Okay, do remember to click the Turn In button when you're finished with the assignment. Reach out if you have any questions and try to get started on these earlier rather than later. So that way, if you're getting a significant amount of things wrong, I can leave you feedback and you can have enough time to go back and correct it to try and improve your grade. Okay, take care.